Hello guys and welcome to a new Wargame video today by me, Vulcan. Today we're playing on Goal and it's a 2v2, me and Rangroo, and we're against C92094 and Bombero 22. Well, this is a conquest game and we're playing for 400 points. I'm playing a armoured deck for the British, same as I did in the last video. You guys wanted to see it again, so here I am playing it. And I can tell you this game actually went really well. For us, it was pretty cool. And you'll see exactly how it turns out at the end. I'm not going to specifically spoil it. Now, Rangroo, who I'm playing with today, does have his own YouTube channel and he does do Wargame commentary. So if you're getting a bit restless for more Wargame content, feel free to go check him out. His channel's called Rangroo Cast, all one word, and he basically does very similar commentaries to me, except from mostly on other people's gameplays. He does do some of his own as well. Now, let's see what I'm doing. So, I've got a Chieftain Mark 10 as a command vehicle. This is going to push up into Echo. The reason I chose an armoured command vehicle for Echo is because it's quite exposed. You can see there isn't actually much cover to hide stuff in. There's a few hedgerows here and there for smaller units, but nothing too significant to get armoured command in. So I went for my Chieftain 10 so that I could put it into the sector so that we could use reinforcement, and then I could move it up behind Echo where it could eventually hide in these trees. I've also got myself a Sultan that's going to be capturing India for us. I brought in one tracked rapier and one tracked rapier FSA. The FSA version is for air units. The tracked rapier is for helicopters mostly. That's where they both stand out. The tracked rapier has about 2,400 range versus helicopters, and the tracked rapier FSA actually has lower range versus helicopter, but higher with aircraft. And I've got my Gazelle AH1. Absolutely love this thing. I've got a Scorpion as a small recon vehicle to head up my army. Then I've got a Challenger 1 in there. I've got 4 Pinsgowers with HGM Milans, and I've got 4 FB32s with Fusiliers, I believe. Then I've got a Rover Pinky, also to help out with the recon, and finally a Lynx AH7 Tow 2. Now Rangroo, his goal was to basically go to Gulf and then hit Fox Trot. My goal was to go India Echo and then Fox Trot so that we could take this hill. Having this hill is a major strategic advantage on this map. Basically, it allows you to flank anyone. You can see the way the forests are. You can pretty much sneak up on any one of the 4 sectors that are around it. Here we go with the troops. Rangroo sending up a couple of Hueys with some troops in to go capture the buildings above Gulf. Meanwhile, I'm sending all my troops up this long highway towards Echo. I've got my Gazelle AH1 and my Lynx AH7 Tow 2 heading up. And basically the idea of this was that if I spotted anything, I'd be able to attack it with the Lynx AH7 Tow 2. However, the enemy bring in a lovely MiG. Comes down, kills my recon very quickly, but ignores my Lynx AH7 Tow 2. Do manage to spot the MI2 and the MI8Ts coming in at Fox Trot. But before I get a chance to focus on that, MiG-25P comes in to take care of my Lynx AH7 Tow 2. Takes its time. I probably should have stopped my tracked rapiers sooner in order to take care of that, but I do bring in my Tornado instead and shoot down that MiG-25 with that. Very, very awesome plane, the Tornado. That's an anti-air tornado, not the anti-ground one. So here we are. I'm splitting up the Pinsgowers into 2 groups of 2. This way I can basically put them into the 2 edge buildings on this town. Then what I'm going to do with the Fusiliers is put them into the center building. And the reason I'm going to do this is so that basically if I get attacked by infantry on this side, what I can do is I can quickly switch the HGM lands and the Fusiliers and keep them very, very strong. What this means is that I can have a large amount of infantry not spread out to take care of any infantry pushes, while the HGM lands take care of the armor. I got my Roby Pinky back here with its exceptional recon hiding in a bush. You can barely see it even if you zoom in. Then we've got my Scorpion up here. My Pinsgowers waiting to be unloaded. And my Chieftain Mark 10 finally coming up to the front. With Rangroo losing some M6 Mosgrisses to the HGMs of the enemy up here. That was because me capturing this sector allowed him to bring in reinforcements from this side. Unfortunately, he didn't notice in time, and therefore that's why the M6 Mosgrisses died. I've got my FV432s heading up the hill. These were basically to bait out some of the HGMs from these Conquerors squads so that I could possibly move up some heavier armor. Although he does waste a few missiles, he does also kill one of the APCs. Now the idea was that I was going to save them so that I could push up with some more APCs later in the game. Now meanwhile, I'm basically getting my tracked rapiers and my tracked rapier FSA to spread out across this front here with the challengers. I've also got my Pinsgowers, they're also spreading about, and they're all basically hidden, or at least most of them are, in hedgerows. And the reason I do this is because it gives the enemy a lot more targets should they attack. And at a distance, you're not going to recognize the exact unit that this is, and if it's hidden in a bush, for example, it's more likely to be a threatening unit than not. And that's why often people will target them, even though it's only a Pinsgower, because they can't see it's a Pinsgower yet. Basically, saves your other troops. Now at the back here, I've got an M110 A2 Ra. This is a howitzer with a very, very powerful cannon, fires 1 shell per salvo. And then we've got a Chinook HC1, which is resupplying that. Now the idea of getting this in was so that we could use it to fire on these HGMs originally. But it's also very good for pinpoint accurate artillery strikes to suppress tanks and so on. And the enemy brings in some Yak 38, and unfortunately for him, what he doesn't realise is that Rangroo's very much got his AA in order, with 2 Eyehawks and 4 Vulcans sitting behind this town. So although they do come in and napalm the crap out of it, both of them get shot down. Now by moving forward a truck here, we managed to spot that there is a T-72 sitting in this forest area here. I also was starting to move forward my FVs again to try and bait out some of the HGMs. Unfortunately, 2 of them died, 1 to a T-72 and 2 to the Conquer squads. Furthermore, more Mosgrisses are taking more HGMs and dying. Fortunately though, Rangroo's already got the Live Garden out of them and is starting to mortar the T-72s while I use my own howitzer to also target the area. The good thing about these M110 A2s is that they have very nice HE power of 14. But my Harriers come in. They have 2 500 kilogram bombs each. I send 4 to attack the T-72s, 2 to hit the Conquerors squads, and it's pretty unlikely that a Conquer squad, if that landed on it, would have survived. So now I've brought out my reinforcements. Got 8 FB-32s with the Fusiliers squads in them. Now they're attack moving through these tree lines. The MiG-25BM here comes in, manages to take out my Track Rapier FSA with anti-radar missiles. Fortunately though, my Tracked Rapier, which isn't radar, got that instead. Rangroo's Liv Garland doing a good job of taking out the T-72s that were left over from the bombing run. They have Carl Gustavs. I can tell you at the time, Rangroo was pretty excited about that. Now, while we're pushing up into Fox Trot, I do also bring in more challengers and more Track Rapiers and so on to reinforce this right side. I've got a Rover Pinky heading up onto this hill to provide recon from the flank. But the reason for this basically was to build up a force good enough to push to Delta once we captured and secured Fox Trot. So at this point, a spam of Mi-8Ts come in. Rangroo's Liv Garden are unfortunately in the flames. But I bring in my Tornado ADV F3 to take care of some of these helicopters. Now, what I have learnt since the last patch is that if a helicopter dies, all of the troops in the helicopter die unless it's a 15-man squad. So it's very valuable to shoot down helicopters with any men in them. Now here, these were just Mi-8Ts that were already used up and they brought forwards to attack my men. And this tornado went to work on the enemy because they didn't seem to have any AA in the area at all. I go ahead and bring in a second tornado because of this. Now there is a MiG-23 on the horizon, and you can see that he's coming straight towards my tornadoes. It was time for me to evac them. You can see here, as I fly over Charlie and evac this tornado, we managed to spot where one of the enemy's AA is. After that's gone, bring out my second tornado. While this is all going on, I'm pushing up my APCs with the help of Rangroo and his AMX-13 Harpoons. This basically helped us secure Fox Trot for ourselves. My FBs come up against some Razvedka. Fortunately, not really standing much of a chance. That's 4 squads there. Each squad having 5 men. They just used up all their rockets to destroy them. We managed to get a quick glimpse of their command vehicle in this sector, as you can see, and we do manage to spot that out. But unfortunately, don't have the time to actually take care of it before it disappears. My Fusiliers engaged on the Razvedka, and we managed to take care of the last few squads in Fox Trot. And meanwhile, over on the left, I come in with a few Harriers. The idea of these was, one, to bait the AA, the second one to hit the Factorias, and then the third one, which probably should have come in a lot sooner, to hit the Tunguskas and Books. Unfortunately, the third Harrier actually got stunned and therefore didn't do anything and didn't drop its bombs. If it had done, it would have taken out a Book and a Tunguska in the same bombing run, which would have been extremely valuable for us and would have allowed us to move around a lot of air units without much contention. So with us securing Fox Trot, basically this means that we've brought the points back to even. They're currently winning 88 points to 52, but Fox Trot was what was giving them an advantage, and now we've stopped them and stopped that advantage, and Rangroo eventually brings up this M113A1CP to capture the area. Now what I do with my Fusiliers here is fan them out so that I can spot any infantry that might be left in this forest. It's a very good plan to do this, just to make sure that we couldn't get flanked in the area. It's basically like a warning system if anything's there. If there was anything there, I would have grouped up the rest of them and gone and attacked it. Luckily for us though, there didn't seem to be anything, and therefore I managed to get the Fusilier squads back together in order to go on a new mission. And meanwhile, these Fusiliers are running down into this forest. They're basically hunting after the T-72 command vehicle that we spotted earlier. I've also brought out 8 Pinzgauers. 4 of them have javelins, 4 of them have HGM Milans. The javelins obviously for anti-air, and the HGM Milans are going to sit on the top of this hill and cover the road like they were doing with their Conkers down this road. Now for them, this road's a lot better because basically it's straight. And you can sit Conkers up here and you can fire all the way down it. It's actually pretty ridiculous. This, however, is a bit more wiggly. You can see it's not exactly straight. You can probably shoot to about down here, but not as far as you can with HGMs down here. So, I put an attack marker where I'm going to go with these Fusiliers. After I've grouped them up again, I decide that taking this building would be a good idea to disrupt their reinforcements down this road. Now, owning Charlie, they can get reinforcements from here, but it'll basically mean that any units that come from Alpha or Bravo will get taken out by the Fusiliers. So meanwhile, on the right, I'm slowly advancing a couple of recon units. Managed to spot the T-72 that's captured Delta. And I've also got a Rover Pinky on the right, which is keeping tabs on these UAZ Factorias and the Mi-8Ts moving around on the right with this Mi-28. Now, as you can see, I've brought in 2 Tornado, and they're going to try and take care of this air threat. I send one to hit the Mi-28, as it's quite a valuable target, and then the other one to start hitting these Mi-8Ts. Unfortunately, both of them miss their missiles, and therefore leave the Mi-8Ts on 1 health, and the cannons of the Tornado only did 1 damage to the Mi-28. Fortunately over here, my Tornado manages to hit a MiG-23 with a missile. The MiG-23s, however, can turn faster than my Tornadoes, and before I notice, they bring in a couple more MiGs to help shoot that down. So my Fusiliers here have spotted a vehicle in Charlie. Turns out that it's a BRDM-2U. Rangroo finally Rangroo decides to tell me that it's there, and then I go ahead and charge it with these Fusiliers that haven't yet been spotted. Now the Mi-8Ts that are left, they head forwards and unfortunately spot my Rover Pinky. Probably should have turned off the weapon system for this thing, and then it wouldn't have got spotted. However, it did, and the UAZ Factorias were in line of sight to shoot it from that distance. I decided to bring in another one, and that's just basically to replace it now that I've seen that the Mi-8Ts have gone back the opposite direction. Finally, over here, my Fusiliers managed to take care of the BRDM-2, and that basically neutralized Charlie for us, giving us now a +2 advantage over the enemy. I also leave my Fusiliers here to use up the rest of their rockets, try and kill the T-55 AMVs. Unfortunately, they don't quite do the job, and therefore I have to retreat them back into the forest to resupply. See here, unfortunately, this Challenger I don't notice is being sniped by HGMs throughout this game. And I think I do lose it for free, just because I was sleeping. Down to 1 health at this point. One more HGM will finish that off. And there we go. That was just a bit of lapse of concentration on my part as I bring up a third challenger, or what is now my third challenger after originally having 4. The idea was just to make this front line so that I could push up into the sector and take care of this CV that was taunting me for almost the entire game. Now, I think the reason that this Strat Rapier didn't get attacked originally was because it wasn't in range, or the HGMs that were attacking it ran out of ammo. Now, something you have to be very careful with using HGMs is that you should really keep resupplied by them at all times so that they never run out. Now, C92 starts to bring forward some T72s on the left here. Seeing that, I basically reverse my challenges so they're not in range of the enemy HGMs, and then take advantage of that range to kill the T72s without them being able to do much damage to my own forces. Start hitting my Trap Rapier, so I eventually retreat that. And meanwhile over here, my Fusilier squads have bumped into a few recon squads of the enemy, the Razvedkas, and I take them out swiftly with my numbers advantage. So now I bring up a Harrier to take care of the HGMs in the area. Unfortunately for me, too much AA, and he dies a horrible death. C9 thinks that he can use his Mi-8Ts to flush out my Fusiliers. It would have been a good plan had he not flown them straight over my Fusiliers and allowed them to get plenty of free hits onto them. I'm being artied over on the right here. You can see my Trap Rapier is trying to get out of there. I'm currently being damaged quite badly. Brought forward my Chinook though, so I'm basically driving back the Trap Rapier into range of that to repair itself. And my Fusiliers coming out of the woods over on this side to get some shots off onto the Mi-8Ts. As soon as they'd killed those 2 that they were close enough to hit, I probably should have retreated them. However, they do manage to draw my Fusiliers out of the forest so they can kill them eventually. So here you can see what I do is I do the old bait strategy with the Harriers. I bring them 2 Harriers. The first one I guarantee is going to get shot down. The second one, however, can get his 2 bombs off and kill the 2 cubs that were sitting in that forest there. Now over here, finally my Fusiliers are dying. I think it's a bit too late for me to start retreating the men. However, I do, but probably should have done it a lot sooner. And with those Fusiliers almost dead, I do bring in some more reinforcements. The 3 Fusilier squads that were originally over here killing the command vehicle have come all the way back, and they're now resupplied by the Chinook and are going to head that way as well. The good thing about these squads is that because they killed that CV, they're actually, one of them's elite, one of them's veteran, and the other one is trained, is that? Can't remember the ranks, but either way, they're getting quite high ranked because of their kills. Now, seeing the Mi-8Ts on the right side made me think that maybe they dropped some men into this area. So what I do is I press forward some FB432s with Fusiliers and some Falcons to try and take care of this area. What I didn't realise was that he actually hadn't dropped anything in this area at all, and that he was basically just defending, or basically sweeping round to basically recon that side with the Mi-8Ts and managed to catch out my troops because of it. Now with Rangroo RTing these T-64As and the Factorias, I start to move forwards my Challenger 1s into range to take care of their units. Now these are all on attack move. Unfortunately I didn't quite micro them enough to not make them shoot at these Urals. But I also bring in a Harrier now that I sort of realised that most of the AA is gone. Unfortunately for me, the AA in the town is enough to shoot down my Harrier, but I bring in the Tornado, which takes care of this Mi-27 that tried to attack my Challengers with its Sackloss missiles. Also brings in a MiG-23P to try and hit my Tornado, but unfortunately for him, Tornado's OP, and I take care of that quickly with 2 shots. 2 missiles basically, a radar missile and an anti-air missile from the Tornado. Just took it out in 2 seconds. And Rangroo does something a bit silly, tries to use the Vulcans here to take out some VMP 685s. The Wild Weasels having a Vulcan in their nose gun. Unfortunately for him, Bombero comes in with a MiG-23P and shoots down one of them. They then bring in a Su-24MP, which unfortunately manages to get the better of a few of his Sheridans and kills my recon by accident. Well, not exactly by accident, but basically it wasn't intended for him to kill that. That wasn't the original target. Starting to move forward my Challenger now into range of this T-72 so that I can snipe it. Bringing up some T-62 MB reinforcements to try and help himself with my Challengers, but doesn't really do enough to clear them out with all of this air support. My track Rapier's getting the better of a lot of these aircraft, and he only killed a tracked Rapier FSA in the process. So meanwhile I've killed all of these tanks, T-62 MBs, T-72s and so on, and he's just killed a tracked Rapier for his work. Now you're probably wondering where the recon is. Well, it's just here. My Gazelle AH-1's been moving around the battlefield as my Challengers have been moving forwards. My Falcons try and help out with these tracked Rapiers to kill that Su-24. Fortunately, they succumb to the bombing strike of the Su-24, which isn't such a big deal. They're only 20 points each, and they're pretty useless actually at shooting down aircraft. I find the Falcons more useful at suppressing infantry. Now with all these HGMs being fired out of nowhere, I decide it's time to bring back my Challengers. Although I realise that the only Challenger that's actually damaged is this one, so I continue that one on the retreat. And with Rangroo's AMX-13 Harpons moving forwards, I also push forwards the Challengers with them to try and help out. Now at this point, if he'd brought in some airplanes, I would be in trouble because this tracked Rapier's out of ammo, and seeing that I decide to retreat it. But I have brought up a tracked Rapier FSA to sit behind the lines in order to take care of any air units, realising that he tried to focus it down in order to kill a lot of my units. Unfortunately, he spent too much on my AA and not enough on my Challengers, which continued to drive forwards and take care of the rest of his troops. Over here you can see the MiG-27M coming in. These have very nice ECM, and that's why it took so long to shoot that down. But with 3 tracked Rapiers here, it's pretty difficult for most airplanes to get away with that. And an anti-radar missile comes in and does manage to kill one of my tracked Rapiers before getting itself shot down. So I'm now down to 2 with ammo. At this point, we're doing very well. With Fox Trot secured, we've been at +1 the entire time. And now we're making the final push across Delta in order to take out the command vehicle here and give us an ultimate lead of +3 with Delta being down. Unfortunately, I don't know what my gazelle was doing, but it got itself shot down by these books. My Lynx AH7 Tow 2 fortunately gets saved by a snipe from my Challenger 1s. However, I do lose one on the push. With the help of my Tornado though, we do manage to clean up the front line here. A couple of Rangroo's aardvarks gave a very nice cluster bomb run across this tree line. Here comes my Tornado to hit the Mi-28 again. And manages to hit that nicely before he kills more of Rangroo's AMX-13s and my last Challenger. Managed to take out the BRDM2 here, which neutralizes Delta and puts us at the +3 advantage. Now with my Gazelle dying, you can see that I do replace it with a Rover Pinky pretty quickly. That was a Rover Pinky that was up on this hill. So in the last video, I definitely forgot and completely neglected recon. In this one, I think I did it a lot better, and it allowed my challengers to get their targets that they needed and do a lot of damage to the enemy because I had that there. Also, Rangroo's Kiowa helped out a lot. So the idea was that we both pushed together and it worked out very well. Starts to bring in some Mi-80s, fortunately bring them too close to the Kiowas and the Cobras. Get my Lynx AH7 Tow 2s to start firing on the tanks after realising they were targeting the awful jeeps of the Factorias. I managed to get a few pot shots onto those forces. And with the T-72s coming very close, I need to split them from the road so that they don't get taken down by the machine guns. I bring one this way and one that way, and it looks really awesome as my Lynx AH7 Tow 2s split and get into positions to fire on the T-72s from both sides. Now with the help of my Challenger, which only had 3 ammo left at the end of this game, I managed to clear up the rest of them and win the game, getting our 400 points in 30 minutes. So there we go. An absolutely brilliant game. I really enjoyed this one. It went very well. I actually ended up getting 3,886 points for 1,600 losses, which is an incredible amount of kills for the time spent in the game. And then we got Rangroo here, who backed me up with his 1,621 kills to 925 losses. Definitely couldn't have done it without him because he secured the left very well, which allowed us to both combine push on the right in order to win the game and take out Delta, which pushed us over the points limit. And there we go. So, hopefully you guys have enjoyed this one. As I said before, make sure you go check out Rangroo at RangrooCast on YouTube. And thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.